Hi.
Thanks for holding. You sound so clear.
So clear?
Yeah, so close.
I'm only in New York.
I know.
We're in the same state.
You're not far at all. I'm not used to talking to people in New York. Usually, like, I talk to people, like, in California or somewhere out in the boondocks somewhere. How you doing?
All right.
Yeah? Basically, I don't know if you've ever read the magazine. It's called Guitar for the Practicing Musician, and it's the one that has sheet music inside.
Oh, I know. Yeah, now that's Metallica's on the cover of the newest one.
Yeah!
Yeah, it said Guitar Player here, and I thought it was like Guitar Player magazine. That other one.
No, it's Guitar for the Practicing Musician.
Right, that's what I figured.
No, so you've seen the magazine. Good.
Yeah.
All right, so basically what we have, it's a column called Rock File, right? And what we do is we like to give publicity and recognition to guitar players that we feel deserve it, but don't really, like, get it publicly.
Right.
And what I'd like to know is basically, like, I read your bio and stuff, and they really don't say too much about you. I want to know more about you and your beginnings and your influences and yourself as a musician and your goals and advice and anything that's between the lines that you'd like to share with our audience.
I heard that we won some best underground band or something, or?
Yeah, you won Best Underground Band. That's why we want you in here.
Right. When is that coming out?
That should be coming out in March.
In March?
Yeah, because it's called the Ig Nobel Prize Awards.
Right. So that'll be out. So I mean, you'll have other issues out before then.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. And this rock file is going to be in for probably the February issue.
Right.
And then we'll follow up with a story and stuff like that. But for now, we're just going to do this rock file and hang out and just just get to know you better and let our readers know what you're all about. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. And it's all positive publicity, so.
Right.
Just in case, yeah. All right. First of all, let's get to know just about you, like what made you start on guitar, and how old are you, by the way, now?
I'm 22.
22. Oh, you're young. All right. Okay. What got you started playing guitar?
Pretty much I just really started playing. I just, wait, hold on a second.
Yeah, sure.
Well, anyway,
Okay.
I just started playing. I just picked it up. It's like my dad, like way back, like in whatever, 1972, whenever I started, he had like an acoustic guitar around the house, and he just used to play it and play like Bob Dylan songs and stuff. So I just started picking it up and just started playing on it, and I decided to take some lessons. I took like about a year of lessons and learned how to read music and.
Who did you take lessons with?
Who with?
Yeah.
Some guy. I don't even remember his name.
Okay, so you were playing so you just picked it up 72, so that was, God, how many years ago? How old were you then? You were like, let me see, that's...
Actually, no, that's 73, I should say, because it's when I lived in Long Island. So
okay.
1 year, 73.
Okay.
But,
what part of Long Island are you from?
I'm from the city, but we lived in Long Island for like 2 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What was I going to say? So I just started playing myself, and I took lessons for about a year. And
how did you like the lessons?
It was alright, because it taught me, I wanted to learn, about the guitar. I didn't just want to pick it up and play. I learned how to read, and just learned all about chord structures, and I learned how to play. I learned all the technical aspects in that first year, pretty much.
Right. Did you learn technical aspects from any albums or records or anything, or were you just like doing mostly lessons, like personal lessons?
Well, it was just pretty much at that time I was just learning how to play and learning about the guitar. After that first year of lessons, I stopped taking lessons because that's when I wanted to learn myself. I really didn't want to learn by someone teaching me their views on it. I didn't want to there was nothing wrong with my teacher, but I didn't want to have his views on playing guitar. So after I learned how to play, then I started doing it myself.
Right. Now you said, do you remember what year you took lessons by any chance?
Yeah, probably like the whole 73, 74 around.
Right. But that's 13 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So that means that you started when you were about 9 years old?
Yeah, about, yeah.
God.
10, yeah.
Wow, that's pretty young.
Yeah, it was just the thing to do, I guess.
Yeah.
So, I was playing, and I was always into really heavy music. I was into Sabbath back then, and all that kind of stuff that first came out, and Zeppelin, and so I was always into the heavier kind of stuff. And of course, I figured.
What made you get into it though? Was it the radio?
I listened to. The first album I bought was a Who album.
Oh, really?
So I was into the Who, and then I just started getting into heavier stuff. And
do you remember what the name of the Who album was?
Yeah, it was probably. I don't even know. Probably, the one with the baked beans on the cover, I think.
Baked beans? Okay, I'll figure it out.
But, I was really into the Who, and then I started getting into heavier stuff, and I figured out how to play songs from the albums and stuff, and just,
Was it frustrating for you to try to learn by yourself, or was it easier than you imagined it to be?
No, it was really easy. I picked it up really easy from, by ear. It didn't seem to be much of a problem. I could just pretty much listen to the songs and then being able to figure it out.
Right. Okay, were there any particular people that influenced you in terms of, You said Sabbath.
Yeah, well, Tony Iommi, and then, you know, later on, like, when I really started getting into playing, you know, even still then, it was still like a hobby thing. It wasn't until like around maybe 78 or so where I started really taking it more serious, and I started jamming around with bands in Queens and stuff, and just hanging out and playing every day with my friends. And, you know, but it was guys like Tony Iommi and Angus Young and the Schenker brothers and Ted Nugent, people like that who, you know, that's what, I mean, that's who I still listen to, really, so.
How about, like, when you were younger and stuff like that, did you, spend a lot of time practicing, or did you, you know?
Back then I did, yeah, especially, you know, because, I mean, I wanted to be able to play. I wanted to be able to, you know, move my hand as fast as I could on the neck and just be able to play really clean, you know, and not be sloppy at all and just be a good player. So I practiced a lot then. Now I only practice when we rehearse, which is like twice a year before we do an album, before we do a tour.
You're kidding.
Yeah, you know, so, I mean, we rehearse when we're writing music and stuff, but, you know, I have guitars in my house, you know, and I play, but, you know, I don't have, like, any kind of, you know, actually schedule. Like, Danny's here, too, and if you talk to him after me, and he's like, totally different than me. He plays, like, 8 hours a day.
Oh, come on,
every
really?
day. Seriously, so.
Oh, my God, that's incredible.
You know, so I'm, like, the exact opposite of him.
Right. What guitar were you using when you were younger? I mean, did you give up the acoustic and go for, you know, did you use electric?
Well, yeah, right. In the first year when I started playing, for about the first 6 months of lessons, I had the acoustic, and then after 6 months, I got my first guitar was a Fender Telecaster.
Oh, wow.
Which I'm sorry I don't have anymore because it was an old one, and it's probably worth money now. But
oh, no.
I sold it like pretty soon after that to get a Strat.
Right.
You know? But my first guitar was a Tele.
Oh, wow. I mean, did you like have an interest in guitars even back then in terms of not just playing but attaining any guitars?
Oh yeah, well especially back then when when you just gotten your first electric guitar, and, you know, and you read in magazines and you see pictures of all your favorite bands, and they got all these different guitars and stuff. I mean, of course I wanted every guitar on the planet back then. You know? I wanted one of everything.
What about now? Like, do you still have, like, an interest in that?
Yeah, well,
attaining guitars? What do you have now?
I'm actually endorsed by ESP. So, I mean, I'm pretty much, I use...
Was he tickling you back there?
No, we're, like, fucking around with the computer type. I specifically...
Blowing up the world. Oh, no. Go ahead.
I like the ESPs a lot, you know, and I use them, but I've still got other guitars that I've had. Like, I still got a Jackson, and I've got a 74 Gibson V, and a couple other things. I got a Fernandez Strat, and I got a Firebird. I've got a couple different guitars, but basically I play the ESPs all the time.
Oh, wow. Okay. What about, all right, so then when you got older and you started playing did you start playing like in local bands and stuff, and what did you do?
Well, never really bands. It was just a case of where I grew up in Queens, and
what part of Queens did you grow up in?
In Bayside.
Bayside, okay.
So it was just a case of like in, you know, junior high school and high school, and just other friends who played guitar or drums or whatever, or bass, and, you know, we used to just get together in people's garages and stuff, you know,
so
your old garage band.
Right.
And just play, you know, every Judas Priest song there was, and every Black Sabbath song, and you know, and just jam, and, you know, jam out all night.
Right.
You know?
Did you write any songs back then?
Nah, the first songs we wrote was like when things really, you know, I guess started to get more serious, like when it was almost the original Anthrax lineup.
Right.
And I was like back around 81 and stuff, and me and the original bass player Danny Loca started writing stuff, and the first songs we wrote were Across the River and Howling Furies, which are on the Fistful of Metal album.
Right.
And there's all other songs. I mean, there's at least 2 dozen other songs that we wrote back then that never even got on the album.
Oh, really?
They just weren't up to par with, you know, as we got better and better as writers.
Right. Like what qualifications does it have to have, like a song before it actually gets on an Anthrax LP? Is there any, like...
Well, it's just got to be a good song all around. Like, I mean, now it's totally different because, I mean, back in '81 it was all different people. You know, I started the band, and I'm the only one left from 81.
All right, so you're the one that started. How did you decide? Did you just say, well?
Well, it was me and Danny, the original bass player, and we just decided, let's do something with this because we were just, you know, we were just playing in this garage, you know, for a year already, and we figured, you know, let's do something like this. You know, let's go out and let's play somewhere.
Did you guys
set up shows or something? So that's when we started writing original material, and we used to play like around in Queens. We would play in like church basements. I mean, anywhere we could, in little bars and stuff. And we didn't really do cover stuff. We tried to do all original stuff.
Right.
You know, which sort of made us different. But then on the other hand, it made it a lot harder to get gigs because nobody really wanted original bands. Everyone wanted, you know, a Van Halen show or you know, or a Sabbath show or stuff like that. And we weren't into that. We wanted to play our own stuff. I mean, we liked playing covers when we were just hanging out. But, you know, to go out and play, we didn't want to do anyone else's music.
Right. So how did you deal with the problem then?
Well, we just played when we could play, and that was it. And, you know, we always had it set in mind that, you know, we wanted to be a real band that would one day end up sitting here and talking to you on the phone, you know.
Right.
I mean, so we just kept writing and writing, and, you know, the material got better and better until eventually, you know, we started cutting some demos in '82, some demo tapes and stuff, and that's when we came to the attention of Johnny Z, who at the time was, you know, who started up Megaforce Records, and he had signed Metallica and Raven. And
all right, slow down. You're going too fast for me. Wait a minute. Okay, I want to cover some stuff before. Were you guys, when you were playing though together, when you and Danny were playing, were you in high school and stuff?
Yeah,
well?
this is like in high school.
Did you guys finish high school or no?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is like around, you know, senior year, you know,
Okay.
11th and 12th grade in high school.
Did you pursue any other education, or that was it?
Yeah, well, I actually started in the fall of '81. I actually started college. I went to St. John's, and I went for one semester, and it became a choice of either having a band or going to college, because, I mean, even back then in '81, where we really weren't even doing anything, you know, it was just a case where there was always something to do with the band. Something always had to be done,
right.
you know, and there was just no time for me to go to school, so I chose the band. And so when I left St. John's after the first semester, and I started...
What were you, like, interested in taking up? Was there anything in particular that you wanted to take in school, or just...
St. John, I was actually an economics major, but it just, you know, I wanted to be in a band, and
right.
so when I left school, I just started, I worked full-time for my dad, which worked out good for me, because it was a case where, you know...
what were you doing for him? What is it?
My father was like the head of a big jewelry manufacturing company.
Oh, right.
So I was just sort of just doing everything, and just picking diamonds, all sorts of things, and it worked out good for me though, because I was working for my dad, and, you know, it sort of gave me the freedom where if I really needed things to do with the band, you know, I'd be able to take off, and, you know, because he supported me, you know.
Right.
So I actually worked full time. Like, I worked up until '83.
Wow.
You know, and saved a lot of money and bought a lot of Marshalls. And
all right.
And you know, it just worked out really good at being able to have the, you know, the money and put it into the band.
Right. All right. So when you guys got together, you and Danny, how did you acquire the other members?
That was just pretty much. See, the lineup that recorded Fistful of Metal came together like in early '83 pretty much. It was me and Danny Loca, who was the original bass player, and Danny Spitz on guitar, who's sitting with me now, and it was Neil Turbin on vocals and Charlie on drums. And we got that whole lineup together like the beginning of '83. And Neil we knew from high school. Neil went to school with us, and Danny I met because Danny was working at a guitar shop here in the city on 48th Street.
Oh, really?
And yeah,
Manny's or something?
he was working at Guitar Man, which is now We Buy or something. He's right across from Manny's.
Oh.
And so we knew each other, and Charlie we met just through a mutual friend, just from going to shows and stuff. And we were looking for a drummer, and my friend Tommy called me up and said, "This guy Charlie, I know he's great. He'd be perfect for your band. You got to come check him out." So we went over his house and checked him out, and that was that.
Wow.
Since then, there's only been 2 changes since then, and I mean they were a long time ago. In January of '84, Danny Loca left the band due to problems that he had with Neil, the singer.
What do you mean?
What?
What, he had personal problems?
Yeah, just a lot of personal problems between him and Neil, so Danny split to pursue his own stuff. And Frankie Bello, who was roading for us, I mean, if you look on the back of the first album, I mean, he was our guitar roadie.
I know, it's so funny. I can't. He must be happy to get
I mean, he fit right in, and it was a case of where he was going to quit anyway because he couldn't stand working for us anymore because we're such pains in the asses. So he was going to quit anyway, and he was a bass player, and we figured, well, Frankie will fit right in. So Frankie started playing bass in January of '84.
Right.
And then
he hasn't left, Tom.
Right. And then that summer, we did our first tour of the States that summer. And when we got home in August from that tour, that's when we kicked Neil out of the band due to personal problems with Neil.
Right.
Which you could probably read about in lots of magazines.
Yeah.
I've answered it a million times.
Right.
But and then a couple of months after that, like, we went into the studio to start working on Spreading the Disease around October of '84, and that's when we got Joey in the band.
Right.
So we've been together 2 years now with this lineup.
Right.
You know, so this is really the Anthrax people know about, because we really did break out until Spreading the Disease.
Right. Do you feel like this is the band though?
Oh, this is definitely. I mean, like I said, this is the longest this band's ever been. I mean, this lineup's been together. I mean, if you exclude Joey, almost 3 years now.
Right.
You know, with the other 4 of us, and with Joey over 2 years already. So it's like, you know, I mean, this is it. I mean, the band's been together longest like this. So this is definitely the band.
Right. All right. So let's go back a little bit in terms of how did you guys? It says here in the bio that you were joined together by a mutual love for hardcore. Did everybody have the same interests musically as well?
Yeah, pretty much, because we're all about the same age.
Right.
You know, we all grew up, you know, listening to the same kind of stuff. I mean, you know, like we were all into the same bands. You know, we all had the same feeling about playing. Like, I mean, like when you know, we all sort of did the same thing. I mean, we were all playing Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and Black Sabbath stuff. You know, that's what we were all into.
Right.
And it was just a case, you know, that we just knew that together as a band, we'd be, writing our own stuff. It would just come out that much better.
Right. What about, it says here, you submitted demo tapes, okay,
Right.
for over a year. Now, is this before you got together with the rest of the members in 83? Was it you and Danny that was submitting?
No, this was the lineup that recorded Fistful of Metal.
Oh, I see, okay.
The original lineup.
Right. Where did you record the demo tapes?
Just at a studio out on Long Island. We did a lot of recording out there, and
What part of Long Island was this in?
there's Freeport.
Freeport?
It's called Sonic Studios in Freeport, Long Island.
Uh-huh. So what was that like for you to enter the studio? Like, were you relaxed and comfortable in it the first time you entered it, or was it like a new thing?
Definitely, because we knew what we wanted to do. We actually recorded, I think 3 demos.
Uh-huh.
We did, 3 different demos, and each one got better, because obviously the first time you're in there, you're pretty much in the hands of whoever's studio it is, because we had no idea what to do.
Right.
And, but every time you go in, even now, we're going back in November to do another album. Every time you go in the studio, you learn more and more, and it becomes easier.
Right.
So by the time we did, that 3rd demo, we were pretty sure, we knew what we wanted.
Right.
And
what did you learn about yourself and your playing ability from being in the studio?
just about myself and my playing ability.
Yeah.
Wow, I guess I realized that I was a decent guitar player, because when you're in the studio, you really come under the microscope. Playing live is one thing, and you can get away with mistakes live if you make mistakes, and but when you're in the studio, it's right there.
Right.
Everything has to be right, because that's what's going down on vinyl, and that's it.
Right.
Once you're immortalized once it's on vinyl, because it stays that way.
Right.
And if you make a mistake on the record, then it's going to stay a mistake. So
Right.
you really gotta bear down, and it's just got to be right.
Right.
When you're in the studio. And, so I really found that I didn't have much problems at all playing, doing all rhythm tracks in the studio.
Right,
It
right.
really came easy for me.
Uh-huh.
Being able to double and triple and quadruple tracks, play the same thing 4 times, exactly.
Right.
It was really easy for me.
That's great. What about, in terms of just having another guitar in the band, how do you work it out, and do you rehearse with Dan a lot?
Well, not really, because, like way
How does it
back
come
then,
together?
in 83, in 83 and 84, we rehearsed a lot. We had our own rehearsal place, and I'd say for 6 months, we played 5 nights a week. We would play before we did Fistful of Metal, and after that, and then, we always, between, the beginning of 83 and the fall of 84, we always had our own rehearsal space.
Right.
And whenever if we weren't in the studio or we weren't out playing on the road, we were home here in New York rehearsing 5 nights a week.
Right.
So from all that, from playing together every night like that, it pretty much, that's why, like I said, we only rehearse now pretty much when we're either going out to tour or when we're writing stuff.
Right.
We don't feel a need to have to play every night anymore.
Right. Going back, what was your first professional gig with Anthrax? The first gig. Do you remember where it was?
First gig ever?
Yeah. Your first gig in a public place.
The first gig ever was in, maybe late 81 or early 82.
Okay.
In St. John's Episcopal Church basement.
Okay.
In Flushing, Queens.
And how'd it go?
It actually went really well, because the place maybe held, it was in a basement, there was a stage and everything, and a friend of ours had a small PA and about 8 lights, and we just put it up, and we played, and we had we printed up 200 tickets and ended up pretty much just giving them out to everybody we possibly could.
Really?
Yeah, there was actually a lot of people there, and we ended up playing 4 shows in that place in a 2-month period.
That's great.
Because it was just a lot of fun, and I guess the people at the church liked it because they sold refreshments.
Right.
And they made money, so.
What about, what do you consider, I just want to get the gigs part over,
Right.
the most memorable gig for you?
Most memorable gig, wow, is probably got to be either when we headlined the Ritz here in New York back in June of this year, because it was really our first really big show here in New York. We had headlining the Ritz.
Right. You guys are from New York, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And we sold out the Ritz, which was a big thing,
Wow.
that's almost 3,000 people.
That's
Or
incredible.
playing at the Hammersmith Odeon in London was a pretty big thing also.
Oh, what was that like?
It was just great, because it's a place, I've been reading about it, so all my favorite bands have always played there, and it's almost like a legendary kind of thing, and then actually getting to play there ourselves and selling out. It's just a really big thing.
Yeah. What about your worst gig?
Worst gig?
Yeah.
Wow.
When did you rather
Probably
not?
that first gig in the church.
Was it really?
No, I don't know. Worst gig? I don't know.
Like in terms maybe, whether your audience wasn't good or you had problems?
I'll tell you what our worst gig was.
Okay.
When this year we went down south, and it was our first time ever going down south, and we had this gig in the middle of nowhere in North Carolina. I don't even know how we ended up. It's something like Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I have no idea how we ended up getting the gig in this place. It was right out of the Blues Brothers, where they go and play Bob's Country Bunker or something.
Oh, no.
And we were just we seen the marquee of this place. First of all, it was in a backyard of a bar. It was ridiculous, and we've seen like the marquee is like tonight Anthrax, tomorrow night the Cowboy Blues Band. You know, like, wow, this is.
You knew you were in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. So it was really weird because there was about 6 kids there, you know, like who knew who we were, and there was all these like sort of like country and western kind of people just sitting down at tables looking at us. Like,
Oh my
what the hell?
God.
And this is like this year, you know. Here we are playing like 2,000 seaters all around the country, and we end up in this like backyard in North Carolina. But I guess in a sense that was the worst gig, but in a way it was also the funniest gig we ever played because we just stood up on stage and laughed for about an hour.
Did you really?
Yeah, I mean it was really hilarious. We couldn't believe it.
How serious? I mean, I can't imagine how you could even be serious in a place like that.
Well, that's why. I mean, we just took it as a big joke, and we just sort of hung out and played. And for the 6 kids in front, they had a really good time.
Oh, that's great. That's great. What about, okay, let's see here. In terms of, okay, let me see. Let me just go down to my list. Hooking up with Megaforce's records, Johnny and Marcia Zazula, right? How did you, it says there that you guys cornered Zazula, that's a nice word, I like that, in the Pancake House in Old Bridge, New Jersey.
Right, well, that's true, because we had been trying to get him for a while. And,
what do you mean? You had sent demo tapes to him?
Yeah, well, we had given him demos, and he at the time he had been promoting shows and stuff in New York, and we really wanted to get something settled because we knew he signed Metallica already, and he had signed Raven to do albums, and we were just like, we got to get in with this guy, you know, we got to. I mean, this is the time is now, and it's got to happen now, otherwise we're gonna miss the boat, you know.
Right.
So we used to go out to his store because he had a record store and a flea market down in Jersey, and we used to go there every weekend when it was open and just bug him. And
How was he reacting?
Well, you know, I mean, he took it, you know, I mean, you know, mostly he was like, guys, you know, when I have the time, you know, I'm busy, this and that, you know. So finally it was like one morning, really early, and we got out to his store like 9 o'clock in the morning down in Old Bridge, New Jersey. It was about an hour south of the city. And we seen him going into International House of Pancakes. And we said, come on, that's it, let's go. We'll go sit down with him at breakfast. He's got no way he ain't gonna just walk out. And we just sat down with him, and it turned out like the night before, so he had actually listened, you know, to the last demo we gave him. He finally like sat down and listened to it, and he liked it a lot.
Wow.
So the timing just worked out perfect because here we are like cornering him, saying, look, you know, we want to do something, you know, you got to give us an answer. And at the same time he's saying, I heard the demo last night, I think it's really good, I want to do something.
Oh, terrific.
So it just sort of worked out really good.
Right. So let me ask you something. Did you have any like false starts along the way in terms of like you really thought that you were close to making it but didn't?
No, it's been a progressive rise ever since that day at the IHOP.
Really?
In Jersey. I mean, every day more and more things happen. It's just built and built and built, you know.
All right. So what happened after you met with Zazula? Did you just like go into the studio again, or did you go on? Says he asked you to open up for Manowar and later Metallica.
Right. He started putting us on like shows in New York. We played a lot of shows with Metallica, and we played with Manowar, and we started playing a lot of shows around New York in clubs like L'Amour's and clubs like that.
Oh boy, L'Amour's.
Well, back then that was a big thing, you know.
Yeah.
And
no, I'm just saying it still is.
Well, we had when we came back in July, we actually did. We played 2 nights there. We sold out 2 nights there, sort of like a welcome home party, which is pretty cool. But anyway.
That's nice. A welcome home party?
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
Really
and it was great because, like, we're sort of really too big to play there now, but it's fun to go back there and play because we know we'll sell out, you know, and it's just like, it's almost like, it's like a party rather than a gig.
Right. Do you like going back?
Oh, yeah, it's great.
That's great. Well, how was it? Did you guys get along with Manowar and Metallica?
Oh, yeah, you know, we got along fine, you know. I mean, no problems at all because we were all really in the same ship back then.
Right,
you know, the same thing. And so what happened was, that last demo that we had given Johnny, which was actually produced by Ross from Manowar, they decided to release a 7-inch single from that demo just to get something out and get the Anthrax name out besides New York. I mean, we had a big cult thing in New York, but really outside of New York, no one knew who we were.
Did you have like a fan club or something as well?
Sort of, yeah. We would get a lot of fan mail and stuff, but you know, it was kind of hard to answer it.
Right,
we were just sort of lazy about all that. But, so they put out the 7-inch, and there was like 3,000 of them, and that sold out like immediately.
Really?
And then we were in the studio in like the fall of '83 recording the Fistful of Metal album.
Right.
And then that came out.
What did you do between the single and the Fistful of Metal? Did you just like
just a lot of playing around New York and rehearsing and getting ready to do the album.
Right.
And then.
So like, were you really into doing the album?
Oh yeah. And January of '84 is when that album was released, and like I said before, that's when Frankie joined the band.
Right.
And we actually headlined our first gig at L'Amour's. Frankie's first gig in the band was our first headline show at L'Amour's, which I think was in February of '84. It was like our first big show, really.
That's great.
And then that summer we did a tour, a U.S. tour, Anthrax Raven tour across the United States.
Right.
And
what was that like for you? Like, were you...
Oh, it was great.
Was it everything you expected, or...
Our first taste of the road, you know, it was unbelievable, actually going out and playing.
What did you find out about being on the road that you didn't know, that you wish you had?
It was just better than, you know, than what we even expected. I mean,
really?
Our favorite thing, like, we were out almost 7 months this year. We've done about 120 shows this year.
Wow.
And we're out almost, if this whole thing didn't happen with, you know, the tragedy with Metallica,
I know.
we would still actually be in Europe now until for another 2 weeks. But we were almost out for like 7 months straight this year, and next year we can't be. I mean, we want to be out for 10 months next year. So.
Right. You guys were on the road with this thing when Cliff Burton, right?
Yeah, we were on the way from Stockholm to Copenhagen.
Were you guys in the? Were you all in the same bus?
No, we were in a different bus.
Oh, thank God. I mean, it was such a weird situation. You know, it's funny because you never expect something like that to happen.
Yeah.
Especially when you're like riding high.
It was like the worst possible. The only thing worse would have been if more people were hurt.
I know.
It was the worst.
That's it. Did you find out about it like right away, or was it just?
Yeah, when we got into the hotel in Copenhagen, the promoter was waiting for us, told us what happened.
Right.
So we were just sort of like all in like a state of shock for a few days. We actually stayed in Europe for another week because there was a lot of business and crap like that had to get settled, and then we came home. We're going back on the 24th to play the Aardschok Day in Zwolle, Holland.
What is that?
It's a big festival with like 6 or 7 bands.
Really?
Yeah.
Who else is going to be there?
What?
Who else is going to be there?
I know Slayer's on the bill and Metal Church. Besides that, I don't know who else.
Wow, that's great. It's going to be exciting. That's true. Is somebody calling you back there?
No.
Oh, okay. I just heard voices. What about in terms of like your own goals? What would you like to do?
Just, you know, keep doing this and just keep getting bigger and bigger. And, you know, eventually we'll be, you know, headlining in arenas ourselves in the United States and taking out another band like us, hopefully, to open for us.
Right. How do you guys keep fresh, you know, after playing so many shows as well? Like, do you do any warm-ups, or how do you just keep on top of your own playing ability?
Well, we just really enjoy it, you know. I mean, it's not like a job for us. I mean, this is what we want to do, you know. So, I mean, people might think you really get sick of playing the same set for 110 shows, but we don't do that because we'll change the set, we'll change things around. Like every night, we'll do something different or something, or add songs certain nights or different songs certain nights, just to keep things fresh all the time.
Right.
You know, just to keep us from getting bored, you know, because this is what we love to do, and the last thing we'd ever want to do is be bored doing this. That would be the worst thing that could happen.
Right.
But I don't think it's going to happen because there's always something new every day.
Right. Do you listen to any guitar players now?
It's pretty much the same thing I said before, but also like a lot of new stuff. I'm really into a lot of hardcore stuff, and I'm into rap a lot. Just a lot of new stuff coming out. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, how does that fit in?
I just love it. I just love the attitude and the whole feeling about it.
You must like Aerosmith and Run DMC some.
Actually, you know, I could live without that.
Really?
I mean, yeah, it's a great thing, but it's sort of, you know, that was, in a way to me, that's sort of like, you know, yeah, it's real commercial and everything, what they did, but, you know, I mean.
Yeah, you guys are really like totally against the commerciality.
Well, I'm not totally against it because obviously, I mean, you got to sell records. I mean, to make it, you know, to be able to do this. But we're set against starting out as something and changing. I mean, there's like a band will be a certain way, and then they'll go and do something else to try and become like an overnight hit, like putting on makeup and all that kind of stuff. And that's what we're against. I mean, we feel like we could be ourselves and make it in this business rather than have to put on a costume and play different kind of music to make it.
Right.
I mean, we can make it without radio. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right. So I guess, how about in terms of like, it says that you don't want to do it without MTV either, like the importance of videos. Do you still feel like, you know, that's not necessary?
It's definitely not necessary because we've made it this far.
Right.
And at the point with the release of our next album, with the talk that's happening with the next album, I mean, it's going to be 10 times bigger than even what we did this year. So, I mean, it's just a case where, you know, we don't need it. I mean, yeah, it would be nice, I mean, to have it because there'd be that people who get this.